The alarm bells rang through the Galactic Council space station. Officer Velthari jumped from his chair as the emergency signal flashed red across his screen. His forearms moved quickly over the controls, trying to clear the static from the incoming message. This is Kethmoran Prime. Under attack, ... Billions dying, ... Please help. The voice cracked and faded. Velthari's blue skin turned pale. He had never heard such fear in a voice before. Within minutes, the great council chamber filled with representatives from 7 different alien species. The room buzzed with worried voices speaking in many languages. At the center sat Council Prime Zethkara, her tall figure casting shadows across the room. The situation is bad, Zethkara said, her voice cutting through the noise. 12 billion lives are at risk. The Ravager Collective has invaded the Kethmoran system. Gasps filled the room. Everyone knew about the Ravagers. They were machines that ate everything in their path. Planets, ships, even entire star systems disappeared when they arrived. No one had ever stopped them before. What forces do we have available? Asked Ambassador Turvak from the hegemony. Zethkara's expression grew darker. Our fleets are fighting 3 other wars. We have maybe 50 ships we can send. The Ravagers have thousands. The room fell silent. 50 ships against thousands was not a battle. It was suicide. Then we must evacuate what we can, said another representative. Save who we can save. 12 billion people, Zethkara repeated. Our transport ships can carry maybe 1 million before the Ravagers arrive. What about the other 11 billion? In the back corner of the chamber, a figure stood up. He was shorter than most aliens in the room, with strange pale skin and dark hair. Many representatives had never seen a human before. Ambassador Kong Doyan of Earth, the human said in a calm voice. The Korean Stellar Navy will answer this distress call. The room erupted in shocked whispers. The Koreans were human, and humans came from a death world. Everyone knew this. Earth was so dangerous that it had created the most violent species in the galaxy. But violent did not always mean capable. With respect, Ambassador, said Turvak, how many ships can your people send? 5, 10. Kong Doyan looked directly at him. We will send what is needed. The Ravagers have over 3,000 ships, Zethkara said. Your entire fleet would be destroyed. Perhaps, Doyan replied. But the Kethmorans sent a distress call. On Earth, we have a saying, leave no one behind. 2 hours later, Admiral Park Min-ho stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Soul's Vengeance. The ship was massive, its hull black as space itself. Along its sides, weapon ports gleamed like angry eye. Admiral, said his communications officer, we have confirmation. The fleet is assembling. Through the viewport, Park Min-ho watched as humanity's response took shape. Ship after ship appeared from hyperspace jumps. Destroyers, carriers, dreadnoughts, and support vessels. The space around Earth's moon filled with the largest human fleet ever assembled. Captain Lee's summons voice crackled over the radio from her destroyer squadron. Admiral, Destroyer Group Alpha reporting. 50 ships ready for combat. Carrier Group Beta ready. Came Captain Kim Jae-won's report. 25 assault carriers, all fighters loaded. Dreadnought Group Gamma standing by, reported Captain Choi Hyeri. 15 heavy ships, all main guns charged. Park Min-ho nodded. The numbers were good, but numbers alone would not win this fight. The Ravagers were machines. They did not feel fear or pain. They did not make mistakes. They simply consumed everything in their path. General Yoon Ha-jin, the admiral, called to his ground forces commander. Are your Marines ready? The general's weathered face appeared on the screen. Behind him, soldiers in black armor checked their weapons. Sir, we have 50,000 Marines ready to deploy. They're eager to fight. Good. We'll need every one of them. On Kethmoran Prime, the situation grew worse by the hour. Commander Morthic watched through his command center's windows as the sky filled with falling metal. The Ravager ships looked like giant insects, their hulls gleaming in the light of the dying sun. Sir, his aide reported, we've lost contact with the outer colonies. Kethmoran 7 and 8 are ... gone. Morthic closed his eyes. 2 billion people had lived on those worlds. Now there was nothing but empty space and drifting metal. What about the defense platforms? 70% destroyed. The remaining ones are falling back to protect the home world. Through his window, Morthic could see the Ravager ships growing larger as they approached. Soon, they would be close enough to begin their harvest. He opened a channel to broadcast to the entire system. This is Commander Morthic to all ships and stations. We have fought bravely, but we cannot hold. If anyone receives this message, please remember us. Remember that we try. In hyperspace, the human fleet raced toward the Kethmoran system. The journey would take 18 hours at maximum speed. On every ship, the crew prepared for battle. Lieutenant Commander Han Jiwoo gathered his fighter pilots in the briefing room. The young pilots looked nervous, but determined. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. The Ravagers are machines, Han Jiwoo explained. They think like machines. They use patterns and formations that make sense to computers. But we are not computers. We are human. We think differently. One pilot raised her hand. Sir, what if there are too many of them? Han Jiwoo smiled grimly. Then we make every shot count. Every missile, every laser blast, every second of fighting matters. Those people are counting on us. In the Marine section, Master Sergeant Lim Sung-ho led his soldiers through their final equipment check. Each Marine wore powered armor that would let them fight in space or on planet surfaces. Their weapons were designed to destroy machines, not living beings. Remember your training, Lim Sung-ho told them. The Ravagers are fast and strong, but they are predictable. They follow programs. We follow instincts. That is our advantage. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, the representatives watched the reports coming in from their spy networks. The human fleet was larger than anyone had expected. Much larger. How many ships do they have? Asked Turvak. Our scouts count over 400 vessels in the main battle group, replied an intelligence officer, plus hundreds more support ships. Impossible, whispered another representative. Earth is just one world. How can they have so many ships? Ambassador Kong Gi-do-yoon had remained silent during the discussions. Now, he spoke quietly. We have been preparing for this day since we first learned we were not alone in the universe. Humans do not like to lose. But can they win? Asked Zefkera. The Ravagers have never been defeated. We shall see, Doyon replied. But I will tell you this. Every human in that fleet volunteered to go. They know they might die. They are going anyway because someone asked for help. The council chamber fell silent. Most species in the galaxy would help their allies, but only if victory was likely. The humans were flying into certain death, and they were doing it for strangers. 18 hours later, the human fleet reached the edge of the Kethmoran system. What they found was worse than their worst fears. The space around the planets was filled with Ravager ships. Millions of them. They moved in perfect formations, consuming everything in their path. Admiral, reported the sensor officer, I count over 3 million enemy vessels. They have completely surrounded the inhabited worlds. Admiral Park Min-ho stared at the tactical display. The odds were impossible. But behind him, on thousands of ships, human soldiers and sailors waited for his orders. All ships, he said into his communicator. This is Admiral Park Min-ho. Today we fight not for Earth, but for 12 billion souls who have asked for our help. Show them why Earth is called a death world. The human fleet moved forward into the storm of metal and death that waited for them. Admiral Park Min-ho stood on his bridge, watching the sea of enemy ships before them. 3 million Ravager vessels moved like hungry insects around the dying planets. The odds were impossible, but humans had faced impossible odds before. All ships, this is the Admiral, he spoke into his communicator. Begin Protocol 7. Show them what a death world can create. Across the fleet, human crews received the order they had trained for, but hoped never to use. Protocol 7 meant no mercy, no prisoners, and no retreat. It meant fighting like the predators Earth had made them. Captain Kim Jae-won launched the first wave from his carrier group. Fighter craft poured out like angry wasps from their ships. Each pilot had trained since childhood for this moment. Lieutenant Bayuna led her squadron toward the nearest cluster of Ravager ships. Remember, she told her pilots over the radio, They think like machines. We think like hunters. The human fighters moved in patterns that confused the Ravagers instead of neat formations. They flew like wild animals stalking prey. They attacked from unexpected angles, using asteroids and debris as cover. The Ravagers' perfect calculations could not predict such chaos. Bayuna dove, her fighter, between two massive Ravager ships. Her weapons were not normal lasers. They were quantum disruptors that tore apart metal at the atomic level. Where her shots hit, the enemy ships simply dissolved into nothing. Direct hit on enemy command vessel, reported Flight Leader Oh Kyungmin. They're breaking formation. For the first time in their existence, the Ravagers experienced something they could not understand. Confusion, fear. The humans fought in ways that made no sense to machine logic. General Yoon Hajin watched the fighter battle from his assault ship. Around him, 50,000 Marines prepared for the most dangerous mission of their lives. They were going to board the Ravager command ships. Marines, the general announced, today we hunt the hunters. Remember your training. Remember Earth. The assault ships flew directly into the enemy formation. Ravager weapons struck their hulls, but the ships were built to survive. They were made from metals found only on Earth's hostile surface, forged in volcanic fires that would destroy most alien technology. Master Sergeant Lim Sung-ho led the first boarding party through the breach in a Ravager ship's hull. The inside was cold and dark, filled with mechanical sounds, perfect for machines, perfect for nightmares. Spread out, he ordered his squad. Hunt them like we learned in the Korean mountains. The Marines moved through the ship like ghosts. Their armor was silent, their weapons deadly. They had trained in Earth's most dangerous places, deep caves, frozen wastelands, burning deserts. This metal maze was just another hunting ground. The Ravagers inside the ship tried to stop them, but human tactics were unlike anything they had faced. The Marines used the ship's own corridors as traps, turning corners into kill zones. They moved like the predators their homeworld had created. Bridge secured, reported Sergeant Major Ru Tai-yin, beginning data extraction. Back in space, Captain Choi Hyeri prepared her dreadnoughts for the next phase. These were the largest ships in the human fleet, carrying weapons that violated several galactic treaties, but the galaxy's rules meant nothing when facing extinction. All ships, prepare scorched earth protocol, she commanded. The dreadnoughts fired weapons that did more than destroy ships. They made entire regions of space uninhabitable. Where the beam struck, reality itself seemed to burn. Ravager ships caught in the blast simply ceased to exist. Captain Lee So-min coordinated her destroyer attacks with precision that amazed even her own crews. Her ships moved in and out of the enemy formation, striking weak points that no other species had ever noticed. Humans saw patterns differently. They saw opportunities where others saw only chaos. Enemy formation breaking apart, reported her tactical officer. They're trying to regroup. Don't let them, Lee So-min ordered. Hit them while they're confused. The destroyers struck like lightning, fast and deadly. Each attack was perfectly timed. Each shot carefully aimed. The Ravagers began to fall back, something they had never done before. In the Galactic Council chamber, representatives watched the battlefields in stunned silence. The humans were not just fighting the Ravagers, they were winning. How is this possible? Whispered Turvak. No one has ever defeated the Ravagers. Look at how they fight, said another representative. It's like they're playing with them. Ambassador Kong Do-yeon watched the screens without emotion. This was what he had expected. This was what Earth had prepared for. The Ravager collective, spread across the galaxy, felt something it had never experienced before. Uncertainty. The humans were doing things that should not be possible. Their ships moved in ways that defied tactical logic. Their soldiers fought like they enjoyed the battle. For the first time in 1,000,000 years, the Ravagers called for help. Ships from 3 other systems began racing toward Keth Morin, but Admiral Park Min-ho had expected this. Commander Shin Min-gi, he called to his cyber warfare specialist. It's time for the final card. Commander Shin Min-gi sat surrounded by banks of computers that hummed with activity. For months, her team had studied captured Ravager technology, They had found something the machines thought was impossible to find: a weakness. Beginning viral upload, she reported, "All ships, prepare for enemy system failure." The virus spread through the Ravager network like wildfire. It was not designed to destroy their ships, but to make them doubt themselves. For machines that had always been certain, doubt was poison. Ravager ships began firing on each other. Their perfect coordination collapsed into chaos. Ships that had moved in harmony for millions of years suddenly could not work together. "It's working!" shouted the sensor officer. "Enemy fleet is in complete disarray." Admiral Park Min-ho allowed himself a small smile. "All ships, final assault, end this." The human fleet struck with everything they had. Ships that had been built in Earth's orbital yards, weapons forged in lunar factories, and soldiers trained in the harshest environments known to science. The Ravagers, confused and divided, could not stand against the assault. One by one, the massive enemy ships began to explode. The space around Kef Morin filled with the light of dying machines. The few Ravager ships that could still move began to flee. Admiral reported communications. "We're receiving a message from Kef Morin Prime." Commander Morthic S-Face appeared on the screen. The alien was crying tears of joy. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for coming. We thought we were all going to die." "No one dies while humans draw breath," Admiral Park Min-ho replied. "It's not our way." The battle was over. Of 3 million Ravager ships, only a few thousand escaped. The human fleet had lost only 37 vessels. The galaxy would remember this day forever. In the council chamber, the representatives sat in shocked silence. They had just watched a species they barely knew destroy the greatest threat the galaxy had ever faced. Earth's reputation as a death world was no longer just a rumor. "What now?" asked Zethkara quietly. Ambassador Kong Doyen stood up from his chair. "Now we go home. But if anyone else sends a distress call, we will answer. That is what humans do." The human fleet began to disperse, returning to their patrol routes and home bases. But the galaxy knew that everything had changed. Somewhere out there on a small blue world, the deadliest species in known space was watching and waiting. Admiral Park Min-ho was preparing to return to Earth when another message arrived on his command screen. 3 different systems were sending distress calls at the same time. He looked out at his fleet, battered but still strong, and smiled. "All ships," he announced, "prepare for hyperspace jump. There are people who need our help." The human ships turned toward their next battle, ready to answer the call. Because that was what humans did. They protected those who could not protect themselves. The galaxy would never be the same.